I wanted to begin this morning with two announcements that I am really proud of. As many of you know, through Bloomberg Philanthropies and our national searches, there were certain positions that I was very, very concerned about. And so I want to begin this morning by sharing with you, and let me thank the President of City Council for joining me to announce two specific appointments. One is Kendra Parlock. She's joined our administration as the Director of Sustainable Solutions. And in this particular role, she will execute the restoration and enhancement of the city's CityStat office for issue-driven performance management, as she calls it, City Smart. She joins us from the private sector and brings a wealth of experience in strategy, business development, and innovation. She is a Six Sigma black belt. I know y'all think that's karate, but it's not. It's not what you think. What it does mean is that she's an exceptional professional certification. She has one certification that means she is experienced in driving performance with data. She comes to us from Cabot Corporation, W.R. Grace, and DuPont. She is a Baltimore native living in Bolton Hill. And so, would you like to share a few words?
Yes. Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good morning. I'm excited to be joining the Mayor's office and excited to be working with city agencies and the Baltimore Police Department to build on the use of data for better performance management. As you are maybe aware, data-driven decisions in government really has its roots here in Baltimore with CityStat. So I'll be building on those strengths and also identifying areas for improvement and using those to drive performance management for better outcomes. So looking forward to working with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning to everyone. I'm happy to stand here with the mayor as she unveils her crime fighting strategy, and I'm really excited of the new director that's coming on board to help us get this crime rate under control. And Mr. Drew Vetter. Madam Mayor, I can't stay because we have confirmation.
This is a violence reduction update.
Violence reduction update. I'm sorry, violent reduction update. But you know, it's going to take all of us to really stop the crime in Baltimore City. Police department can't do it by itself. Government can't do it by itself. Community have to step up to the plate and start reporting what they see. And I think that will help us drive down the crime dramatically in the city of Baltimore. This Stop Snitching slogan that went out from the gang members was targeted just for the gang members, not for the citizens. So we need citizens to step up to the plate, and we as a government need to step up with private entities to make that reward for turning the information a lot better, because once people realize they can get a lot of money, they start talking. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me just say, we made this offer some time ago. I have interviewed people from everywhere through Bloomberg and others as it relates to this particular position. But sometimes we don't often see the folks who are right up under our nose. And I think it was 3 or 4 weeks ago I realized that. And but if anybody knows Drew Vetter, he's very methodical about the decisions that he makes. But he is certainly no stranger to me and no stranger to our city. Some of you know that he recently served as the Chief of Staff for the Police Commissioner, Kevin Davis, and has held various high-level positions in the administration of Governor Martin O'Malley, including Deputy Legislative Officer and Special Assistant to the Deputy Chief of Staff. Drew is a lawyer and is a native of the Mayfield neighborhood in Northeast Baltimore. I bet you didn't know that Drew's first city government job was right out of college, where he was an analyst for the city's CityStat office. I have asked Drew to serve as the director of the Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice and Public Safety, and I can tell you I cannot be more proud to have him join our team. I think that with his methodical processes that he goes through and his analytical capabilities, that working with Kendra and our agencies across the board, that he's a great choice. Thank you, Drew.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you again. I'm Drew Vetter. I want to thank the mayor for this opportunity. I'm really excited to get down to work There's a lot of great things going on in our city. There are a lot of people in the police department and in city agencies who are working very hard on our top priority, which is violence reduction. I believe there are a lot of concrete and actionable things that the city can do, working together with our state, local, federal partners to impact crime. And those are the things that we're going to be focused on in the Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice. So I'd again like to thank the Mayor for the opportunity, and I'm just very excited to get down to work. Thank you.
Any questions for them?
Yeah, how do we spell your name?
Yes. Kendra Parlock, that's Kendra. My last name is Parlock. Par is in golf, lock is in lock, Parlock.
And so you'll be overseeing the city staff director, or are you also the city staff director?
So
She's reinventing the office.
right, I'll be reinventing the office. I'm director
Of all of it.
of all of it.
So you're going to be overseeing all of the data analysis?
I'll be overseeing what was the city stat program, but again, it'll be rebuilt, revamped,
I know we call
expanded.
City Smart from now on.
That's the direction I'm going.
And Mr. Vetter, what do you see as your vision for the Office of Criminal Justice?
Yeah, I think at day one, my first priority is defining the mission of the Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice. There are a number of vacancies right now, so I think action one is define the mission of the office, rebuild the office, engage leaders, law enforcement leaders, subject matter experts, other people in government, past and present, who've done this work before, and really define what things that the city can do working with its partners to impact violent crime. So I think it's really kind of overseeing the violence reduction approach of the administration, of the police department. I think it's going to involve a lot of data analysis and tracking, working with Kendra and her team, ensuring that there's accountability built into all of our goals and strategies, and really just kind of quarterbacking all of the various things that city government can do to impact violent crime.
Will you be playing a role in along with the mayor, of course, selecting the monitors for the consent decree?
So the city currently has a team of individuals that process is underway. I expect, in my role, that I'll be involved in the implementation of the consent decree to varying degrees, and I think that's going to be an important role of the office as well.
And Director, going back to you, what are the biggest changes you think need to be made to city staff?
So there's a lot of strengths with city stat to build on, but definitely areas of opportunity will be making sure that we are performance focused, so better use of data for performance-based management for specific outcomes and issues with priority on violence reduction.
I mean, so how do you measure violence reduction through statistics? Like, what are the most important statistics you look at?
So we're in the process of identifying what those key performance indicators are and what those metrics are. So that's priority number one, and that's what I'll be providing updates on.
And sir, can we get the spelling of your name, please?
Sure, it's Vetter, V as in Victor, E-T-T-E-R.
And then,
Question.
sure.
I was going to say another question for you. You're coming into this position just as the city has seen the death of a 97-year-old war veteran in his home. How does that shape what you're looking at as you walk into the city? That was particularly, I think, shocking homicide for the city.
Yeah, I think violence impacts everybody. It impacts every community in this city, and tragic stories like that only serve to sharpen the focus that we need to have to come together and work on solutions. So it doesn't matter if it's a what the nature of the circumstances are. Every murder in the city is tragic, and I think that we can all agree that the level of violence that we're experiencing right now is not something that should be continued, and that every community in this city deserves better, and that's what we're going to be focused on.
And this happens as other cities have begun to see some downward trending after last summer. No? And then certainly, I think Washington has seen better numbers since last summer.
It took them almost 3 years to get there. As I met with the mayor of DC and with the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and I can tell you that there's a spike. If you look at New Orleans, who saw a downward trend going back up, she would tell you the same thing. At the U.S. Conference of Mayors, we get to talk with each other about the various problems that many of us are facing. I just left the National Conference of State Legislators as one of the panelists for looking at community policing and some of the issues that we ought to be focused on, and many of the issues that cities and states throughout the country. Arkansas talking about a rise in crime in their communities and the fear that exists there. So Kentucky talking about the rise in crime and the fear that they're having there. So what we've learned, especially at this conference, is data-driven information is important. And I'll talk a little bit when I talk about our violence reduction plan, some of the things that we've learned already from our consultants that we have here from the Department of Justice in terms of what our department has and the direction that we're going in. So the conversations vary across the nation. When I participated with Bloomberg Philanthropies, it was 30 mayors from across the country and 10 other mayors from across the world. Everybody talking about violence reduction, the need for it throughout this nation, illegal guns in communities throughout this nation. When I spent 2 hours with Mayor Landrieu, one of the things he says that still concerns him is the number of crimes that are being committed in neighborhoods and communities, the increased homelessness. If you go to Denver or Seattle or Portland, Oregon, where homelessness probably 5 to 7 years ago you didn't see it, but now you see it on every street corner. I was in Boston, which I consider one of the great cities of America. Homelessness is everywhere, and so one of my pitches there was that we've got to deal with this differently as we move forward. But let me begin by handing out our update, violence reduction. And the reason I say update, because I know there are some of you in this room, Mr. Broadwater specifically, who actually had the opportunity to review the plan I had moving into City Hall,
I do remember that.
which also included separately a focus on public safety. I tell folks I didn't come into City Hall without a vision for moving the city forward. In fact, what we did was look at one specific area on its own, 4 specific areas, public safety being one of them. I'm sure you remember this, Drew. So again, I just don't want people to think that we came in City Hall without a plan, because we did. And the plan was very specific in terms of what our focus would be on transparency, on upgrading our police department, on technology and so forth that was needed. But when we came in here with all the smart people that I have around me and the opportunity to review the direction that we wanted to go in, we looked at several areas. And so what you have in front of you is our violence reduction update. And it focuses on 4 specific areas: making Baltimore safe, keeping Baltimore healthy, engaging Baltimore youth, and again, continuing to move our city forward. I wanted to also take a moment to applaud the ceasefire effort, because when we started our call to actions back in January, one of the things that we said is people need to get into the action. Now, they may not have heard us say that, but the fact that people in our communities think it's important to get into the action says that we should be supportive. And so, regardless of what people may think the outcome was in reference to the violence that occurred, the fact that people gathered in neighborhoods and communities throughout the city says that we're moving in the right direction. So I wanted to update you on our comprehensive effort. And as I said, crime and violence in our city is not something that we take very lightly. It requires a comprehensive approach, And it requires us looking across agencies, so agencies were engaged in this effort as we began to look at what is it that we're doing and what is it that we must do to continue to drive violence down in our city. The document also provides an update to the various strategies that have been put in place, as well as new initiatives and innovative approaches that will reduce violence and promote safety. Again, I just want to be clear that this administration has been working to improve safety and health throughout Baltimore since my inauguration. I ran for office on the platform of public safety. I have brought this vision into my administration, and we have held firm to it since assuming office. We, as you well know, walked into this office and had to finalize a consent decree, one that was not on my desk, one that other cities throughout this nation took over a year to complete. We did it in 60 days. We did it because the citizens of this community said that they had lost faith in our police department and that they felt that there needed to be changes. And so, unlike some other cities where, coming into an inauguration at the same period that I came into said, you know what? The wave in DC has changed. We don't have to do this. We thought it was important to do it, and we did. And so we completed our consent decree, and where we are currently is interviewing for the monitor. And it will be in the judge's hands, and we are hoping for a great outcome. One of the things that the Los Angeles, our consultants from Los Angeles have said to us to be very conscious that we select the right team for our city. I also would like to say thank you to our team that's in here monitoring the police department, currently evaluating them, working with them, and they gave us a preliminary report, my team, before they left, and they'll be back because they'll continue to evaluate, and I think they expect to put out a report sometime in September. They applauded many of the efforts that are currently underway in the police department, especially around the new technology that we're looking at. They reviewed our plan, and we believe we're headed in the right direction. I can tell you that we, as you well know, we paid a lot of attention to the Baltimore City public school system with the $130 million that we had to put together to subsidize the school system in terms of their deficit. We've established what we call the 4 transformation zones, which bring a coordinated and sustained focus from all city agencies to some of the most violent areas in our city. You all know, some of you know, that we fought for legislation in Annapolis to strengthen gun laws and sponsored city legislation to strengthen the penalties for possession of illegal guns. One of the things that I talked about when I first walked into City Hall was the fact that the city is dark in many of the neighborhoods. I said I wanted to have 6,000 new lights put up throughout neighborhoods in our city. We are working with BGE to light up Baltimore City with 6,000 new lights and committed to upgrading all 52,000 city street lights. And you should know that that has already begun. We began on Charles Street and Pennsylvania Avenue.
I saw them.
You saw them?
Very nice.
Aren't they nice?
Sorry, I just had to say.
And that was a part of our effort. We said we've got to brighten up these neighborhoods, and people on Pennsylvania Avenue are excited that we lit up, that we're lighting up those areas, but that's going to happen throughout neighborhoods in our city. We have ordered a mobile employment unit to get to neighborhoods to help provide jobs. I said to you all when I first walked in the door that so many people in our neighborhoods and communities had given up hope in terms of 76,000 people unemployed. I told you that I read all the data. I can tell you where the highest unemployed areas are in our city, and people aren't applying for jobs. I said we needed mobile units. So the library system currently has one on the street, and we will add another by the spring of this year. We've already ordered it. I've raised the money for it, and it will be on the street. I just want to talk about a little bit about our strategies: making Baltimore safe, keeping Baltimore healthy, engaging Baltimore youth. The first goal, as I talked about, was making Baltimore safe, includes many of the crime-fighting initiatives I outlined 2 weeks ago, shared with you all, such as working with the U.S. Department of Justice and experts to improve violence reduction in our city, Their goals include strategies that are critical to fighting and reducing violence, improving effective policing, and that goes around our training and so forth that we're doing with our police department. We're very focused on repeat offenders. I get to attend those meetings in the war room on a regular basis, and I have to say that among the things that we've been able to do, and I tell people all the time, police can't do this by themselves. Our clearance rate, however, has gone from 30% last year to almost 58% this year. We're heading towards 60%. And that is because we're using so much data to drive outcomes and to focus on some of those violent offenders. Goal 2 is keeping Baltimore safe, includes strategies to enhance public safety and resources to support addiction recovery. We will enhance access to health facilities. We will open our first city stabilization center for adults to provide those suffering from substance abuse. We will increase the availability of the life-saving Narcan to stop unnecessary opioid overdose deaths. But you should know that the stabilization center was very strategically located, because what we did not want to do was make sure that we bombarded certain neighborhoods, but we created a safe place, a 24-hour operation, so that we also provide the services to individuals who have problems and not just, get them sober. What next? And that's what this particular center will help us to do. We will expand, and I hope that some of you, if you haven't, please spend a little bit of time with the city's police department's homeless outreach team, the HOT team, because we're going to expand that team. The last two individuals, I had a conversation with the HOT team. They actually did a video because they go into the streets, into the neighborhoods, into the communities. As you well know, tent cities popping up. And what I tell folks is that the homeless problem is not just Baltimore's problem. It's a problem throughout this nation. We found that among the last few people that they were able to get up off the street, one was from Cecil County, and I think the other one was from Houston, Texas. And they helped them to get back home because their families didn't even know where they were. And so we will continue those kinds of effort. The third goal specifically addresses our young people, and we must ensure they grow up to be healthy, responsible adults. They are, in fact, the future of our city. We've done several things so far with youth. We have our squeegee corps is supposed to be doing their test run on Thursday in front of City Hall. I talked to you about the squeegee kids who are on the corners. And so we have gotten them into enterprise training, and now they will be popping up car washes around the city. We're trying to help them. I tell folks we got to meet our young people where they are. This year we employed, I think it was 8,800 young people this summer, more than ever in the history of our city. I ran into our old Office of Employment Director, Karen Sicknick, as I was leaving the airport heading back to Baltimore yesterday, and she was like, I can't believe you hit 8,800. I think back then we were looking at to hire 2,000 students, hire 3,000 students, hire 4,000 students, and now we're at 8,800. Our goal next year is to hire 9,000. But one of the things that Kendra will be looking at, because I've raised this question, is how are we tracking our young people? We know, for example, we graduate about 4,000 young people a year. We know that a certain percentage are going to colleges and universities throughout the country. We know, for example, that Johns Hopkins offers free tuition to children who obtain really high grade point averages. When I talk to President Daniels, he says that amounts to about 20 young people. Morgan State University has about 35 or 50 that they offer a full ride. I've got a meeting with all the college presidents to find out what are they doing in terms of making sure that our young people go to college. We believe that we do have a responsibility to help our young people to college. And so what we're going to do in Baltimore City is make Baltimore City Community College free. We believe that that is a step in the right direction in terms of an investment in our young people, and we not only are going to make it free, we're going to track our young people at the high school level in 12th grade. We want them to have a work plan, and we will follow them We want to know what colleges and universities they're going to. Every child doesn't want to go to college. So our 2-year commitment to them is a associate degree or a certificate, because we're now partnering with some of our cybersecurity firms at Baltimore City Community College, and so some of those young people can go into those programs. We're also working with the police department's cadet program, where young people can go at the age of 18 and prepare to be police officers. We're also looking at how do we make sure that the young people who want to go to work get to go to work. So I've talked with the business community, and what we're looking for is a commitment of 500 to 1,000 jobs for young people when they graduate from high school, those who are going to go to work. And so what we're going to do is make sure that they are prepared to go to work. You know, whether we do a 5-week program, just making sure that they know what they need to do in order to be prepared to work. So we're very excited about our public-private partnership for our young people. We do have a Teen Biz Challenge that's about to pop up. I think that's this Thursday for our young people, about 40 young people that we've raised money for to compete to start their own businesses. That will happen this Thursday at Open Works. Baltimore will be the second city to offer free community college for graduating seniors. Currently, only San Francisco offers, as does the state of Rhode Island, Tennessee, New York, and Oregon. I understand that I think one of our jurisdictions is testing out such a program. In the state of Maryland, we're not testing, we're making it free. Community college has become critical in providing the necessary education and training that high school graduates need to pursue a trade or a 4-year degree. Additionally, we will make investments in new rec centers and upgrade others. I mentioned the Teen Biz Challenge. The fourth and final goal is to move Baltimore forward. These strategies are longer term and seek to provide economic opportunity for everyone in Baltimore. The goal includes a new initiative which my administration has been working on to establish a community neighborhood enterprise and redevelopment fund. This will be focused on communities that have been neglected for decades, and it will provide incentives for redevelopment and financing solutions for distressed neighborhoods. The fund will be, as I pointed out, will be limited just to neglected neighborhoods, and I don't think that they'll be too hard to find. Additionally, we will seek to fund a second mobile unit that I've already mentioned, and we will also expand our Mayor's Office of Reentry for returning citizens. We have already started working with Morgan State University to do a program around returning citizens who want to start their own businesses, but we also want to be able to track them and help them into opportunities to work. I believe that these are additional strategies will help us to make Baltimore a more safe city, and at the same time, in weeks and months to come, as we begin to benchmark some of the things that are included in our violence reduction strategy, I think that you will be able to see some of the changes that we expect to happen as a result of the number of things that we're doing. Let me just say that among the things that we focused on was recruitment of police officers, and I think I said this back in January. I think 56 individuals last year applied to be police officers. At the same time, it was 157. It's currently 170 individuals who will be graduating at different stages from our police department. And we will continue that heavy recruitment. You should know that 40% of those individuals are from the city. We have a 27% increase of African Americans who have applied to work with our police department. Again, we know that we've got to drive these numbers down, but we also recognize that we can't do this work by ourselves. I do meet every other week with community groups and organizations, and I tell people defining what community is probably different in different cases. For us, it's people whose ears are on the ground, not necessarily the presidents of big organizations, but people whose ears are on the ground. And they share with us on a regular basis things that we should be doing and things that we can do. We know that we have folks on our streets that are difficult to employ. So we're creating what we call one day work, one day pay, because we feel like if we can touch folks, that we can help change their lives as well. And so we're working with small groups inside the neighborhoods and communities to get those folks working. We believe that they can help us clean up our city. At the same time, we can help them. When I think about methadone in our communities and neighborhoods, one of the things that we're working, which was really great to see, a recommendation from the health department, but it was a recommendation that I had made in conversation with the health department about looking for new ways to do drug treatment in neighborhoods and communities using telemedicine. We're using it for other illnesses to be able to give somebody a month's supply, and through telemedicine to keep them from having to come into certain neighborhoods, and even through the pharmacies, because if we say that it's an illness, then they ought to be able to get their medication through pharmacies as well. So again, I'm very excited about the direction that we're going in. I want to thank all of those who have been working with us thus far. And one of the things that I'd like to say is that, you know, we don't take this lightly. You know, everything that we think of that we want to do, we search, we research, we look at what other cities are doing. When I talk to you about driving down violence in our city, it was not, we didn't choose Los Angeles haphazardly. It was working with the Department of Justice that showed us that the 5-year reduction that was sustained in Los Angeles was sustained through the work of this team. And so I believe that our violence reduction update parallels what they are doing and want to do. When I went to meet with the governor, in terms of some of the resources that we need, and you'll see those included in here, we will have additional parole and probation officers in our city. We now currently have 2. We are going to get more. We will have ShotSpotter in our city. You will see that in the violence reduction program. And the Niven van that we had in our city, I know it's coming back in August. We're working to see if we can have that on a regular basis. And we're very excited about that as well. We've got a lot of work to do. I've got a great team. I'm excited about the future of Baltimore. And I want to again thank the community for engaging, because when we did our first call to action, I asked for 30 people, 90 people showed up. When we did our call to action day at Baltimore City Community College, over 400 plus people showed up. They're involved in different critical paths throughout our city. We've looked at the mediators in our city, in different parts of our city, who are helping to mediate and reduce violence. We are strengthening safe streets because we do think that it has worked in different neighborhoods in our communities, but we do know that there are people out there that folks don't even know about who are engaged. We get that through the community folks who come here on a regular basis and share information with us. And there are groups out there that are mediating violence that we have said, come help us and let us help you. And it's just like I said to the ceasefire group, you know, every time somebody walked up to me for an interview, because I laid in the background because I just wanted to be there and support, you know, applaud their efforts, because community folks can do this. They can help us drive down the violence. And it doesn't require the mayor to stand in the front all the time. And sometimes we can stand in the background and let it take its place. And we're very happy about that.
Madam Mayor, what are the benchmarks in place? I mean, besides obviously the body count going down, how do you intend to measure these actions going in place? Do you have a timeline? Do you have, I mean, just physical measurements that you can say, by this date we're expecting to try to do this, by this date we're expecting to try to do this?
No, what I've done is working with the school system. We're still working with the school system now because there's not a real cohesive a relationship with the city and the school system in terms of those numbers of children. So I've asked for those numbers, and what Kendra is going to be doing is setting up those metrics to do that. The police department has its own metrics, and they can tell you what their body counts are, how they're driving down crime in certain areas, and then working with Drew and Kendra, we'll be able to put all of those metrics in place, and I'll rely on them to provide that kind of information for you as we move forward.
Madam Mayor, one of the strategies here is improve the training of police. Last week, Commissioner Davis talked about there being confusion among officers when it comes to body-worn cameras and using them properly, even after they've been trained, even after a policy has been released. So what does that say about the quality of the training that police officers are receiving?
Well, I think that when you look at the DOJ report, it requires certain specific training to take place, and we'll do that. And I think when you talk about what the California folks have advised us to do, I think you'll see improvement in the training. Oftentimes when we introduce new measures, we need to make sure that there is a solidified formal training and policies in place so that there are also measures by which you say, this is unacceptable. And certain things just should not be acceptable. Like when I talked to the police commissioner about body cameras, I mean, until you leave the scene, the body camera should not be turned off. And you can't go back and recreate a scene. It just doesn't work. It erodes what we need in terms of trust in the police department and the community. And so when the LA folks came, that is part of the thing they're also working on, and there are some specific training tools that we will put in place as well.
There was an audit system in place for body cameras where they would detect police use to make sure they were following policy. When we looked over those audits, we didn't see any mention or any trend of officers turning off their cameras too soon. So is there a structure in place that can properly measure if police officers are following their training right now, if these audits didn't pick up on this trend of officers turning off?
I'm looking at the commissioner. Yes, sir. Of course, I'd just say yes, but no.
So, of course. Well, Mayor, thank you for your violence reduction update. Your selections and appointments of Drew and Kendra will help continue to move us forward. The word confusion, I never used it, so to attribute that word to me is not correct. What I did describe is that as we further clarify our body-worn camera program, we have one of the largest in the country. The eyes of the nation's 18,000 police departments are on Baltimore. And as you leave the boundaries of the city and talk to other police departments, we receive applause across this country for how we've implemented the nation's largest body-worn camera program. We've amassed over 7.2 million minutes of body-worn camera footage. We are one of the only police departments that you can find that routinely releases body-worn camera footage as it relates to police-involved shootings. It's one of the best things that's happened to the Baltimore Police Department in transparency and trust with our community. Our police department's been around for 233 years. Body-worn cameras have been around for about 15, 16 months. So as this technology is introduced to us, we have to continue to refine our existing policies. And one of the things that the mayor mentioned was clarifying to officers that their body-worn cameras will stay on until they physically leave a scene. So that's what I mentioned last week, and that's the hard work that we continue to do. But we're very proud of our body-worn camera program, and it's done far, far more good for police community trust than not.
I wanted Tim to also explain, one of the tools that we're also getting is the computers in the cars, what that actually does for the Baltimore City Police Department.
Sure, Mayor. Well, you guys may have heard me say this before. I got my first mobile data computer in my police car just down the street in Maryland in 1998. So
But that was big.
It was huge. I could barely fit anyone in a car. So that technology that's been available to all the surrounding jurisdictions has never been available to Baltimore police officers. So if we don't have field-based reporting, we're behind the eight ball when it comes to the timely examination of data that helps us do our job better. So as we prepare to introduce mobile data computers to our police department, and that's coming in calendar year 2017, that's underway. And that's been another great partnership that the mayor's had with Annapolis. We know it's going to make our police department better. We still handwrite reports in Baltimore. We drive them from one of the 9 district stations, or all of the 9 district stations, to headquarters at the end of the day, and then they are manually entered into a records management system that's archaic.
So I go on roll calls, and it's interesting, when I first started going on roll calls, you say, hi, I'm Mayor Pugh, just want to let you all know that you're in our hearts, you're in our minds, and we think about you every day. And I do a little speech, and then I say, so are there any questions? Never a question. So then I started saying, what is it that you need? Tell us what you need. And one young man, because they tell me, even the Los Angeles consultant says that the Millennium police officers are more, they'll speak up like that. And one of them said, we need computers in our cars. It's just too time consuming. We'd rather be on the street than these long, lengthy handwritten reports. So I think that that's also going to be a very good thing for the Baltimore City Police Department.
Mayor, we've seen in recent weeks a lot of community urgency about the crime issue. You have the ceasefire campaign over the weekend, getting bills, holding rallies. People seem to be getting very organized and motivated. Do you feel that city government and the police department have the same sense of urgency?
Absolutely. The thing I like about the ceasefire folks is that they're in action. It's one thing to stand on the sidelines and tell folks what they're not doing. It's another thing to get into the action. And as I said when we started doing call to actions, that was a sense of urgency, that we have a sense of urgency about violence in our city, and we need people to help us to reduce the violence in our city. We will put the tools and the necessary tools in place so that we can make sure that we reduce violence in our city. I've also said unfreeze all police positions that are open so that we can get police officers on our street. We've also identified 100 police officers doing civilian work. Get them on our streets. I've had a conversation with the Board of Estimates, change the policy so that we can get some retired officers to come back and help us. This is a lot of folks coming into the police department. You're talking about 170, almost 270 new police officers on our streets. That requires management. And so there are a lot of folks out there, at young ages, 40, 45, who retired from the police department, maybe working somewhere else, who can come back here and help us manage this process. And so we're changing that as well. There has always been a sense of urgency. Again, I didn't start call of action on August 1st. This started, back in January. I think it's important to know the problem, but I also think it's important to listen to people in the street. That's why I'm listening all the time. I tell folks, this isn't Catherine Pugh or the police commissioner. This is all the agencies. This is community groups, and those who stand on the outside and don't want to have a conversation about it or just want to complain about it. I say the question begins, what are you doing? When we said we needed help in order to make sure that young people had activities to do this summer, and that I would go out there and raise $14 million. The question I ask is, how much did you raise to help those young people get to work this summer? This is urgent. Everything we do, every single day, is around making this city safe, whether it is counting every child from the moment they leave their house to the moment they get back home or to a job, or to college, or to a university. That is important to us. That protects the future of our city. Every senior citizen should feel safe walking the streets of our city, which is why I said initially, day one, light this city up. It's too dark. People don't feel safe in neighborhoods walking to corner stores. This is urgent. I can't say it any louder, and again, I can't say it more often. This is urgent. We can drive down violence in the city. But the police department having the right tools, community having faith in their police department, and neighborhoods working together will make the difference in terms of how we move our city forward.
In this plan, you also said to enhance the funding of Safe Streets, which there was a little bit of a funding crisis behind this.
There really wasn't a funding crisis. No, the city council thought there was a funding crisis. What we did was embedded it. Safe Streets didn't come about in 2016 and 17. Safe Streets has been around since 2007. 2007. And they didn't think it was important to put it in the city's budget?
So is this now in the city's budget?
It is in the health department's budget, absolutely.
And when you say enhance, is there a dedication to grow this program at all, or keep it the way it is, or what does this mean?
What I said was that we are looking at every strategy that is in place. Those who prove to have an impact on violence reduction, we will continue to enhance.
Mayor, you rightly said that you did have a crime plan.
Absolutely.
For the campaign, and you put it out, and there was, criticism from some of the city council, where's the plan, that type of stuff.
Agreed.
What is how has the plan changed or evolved, or what have you, or is it the same vision you've always had?
The vision that I always had is included in that. You know, I talked about new technology. I talked about having mobile units move around the city. I talked about more rec centers and protecting our young people. All of those things. I talked about increasing police presence. I talked about police training. All of that was there. What we've done now, because of all the people that I have around me, is enhance that plan. We didn't talk about making community college free, but we did do the research to see if in fact we could do that. And the fact of the matter is that we can.
How do you pay for it, Madam Mayor?
So there are about 1,000 young people, 500 to 1,000 young people. Do the math. It's $1.5 million, not a lot of money.
Madam Mayor, when it comes to this being out officially now, what is the first thing that the community is going to see, speaking of that urgency?
What is it?
What is the first thing that they're going to be able to see?
Community-
The difference now that this violence reduction plan is out there.
But it's out there. It's been out there. That's why it's an update. I mean, they will see the stabilization center go up. I mean, the mobile unit is already on the street. I mean, these are things that are already being done. The small contracts are being worked out. The lights are already up in the cities and the neighborhoods. You know, those are things that were in the plan initially, and they're in this plan, and they're activities that are already occurring. And the new things would be things like Baltimore City Community. We're giving our young people hope. You can go to college. You can get a career. We've got a commitment from the public and private sector. If you don't want to go to work, if you don't want to go to college, we're going to make sure that you go to work. We're going to, or to the armed services. All of those things we're taking responsibility for. We're going to track our young people because we need to.
Do we have a timeline of when that's going to happen?
Yeah, 2018 school year, free.
So looking at your part on the increased access to housing, housing experts and people at Baltimore Housing Watch would like to know, is there some sort of plan for how you're going to be building more housing, and is this housing going to be affordable housing for low and moderate income families?
Absolutely. The project that we just did on Liberty Heights Avenue, there are units there just for the chronically homeless, as well as affordable housing. And when we talk about this new development fund, this is building homes for in fact, in here we talk about homes for the homeless. There are a group, in fact, there's a vision in here that I'm working with some developers to begin to build homes for the homeless. You know, I always tell the story that when I lived in Philadelphia and I would ride up Roosevelt Boulevard and I would look to my left and there was this plot of land where you could see people sitting outside. And today when you ride up there are $1 million houses on that land. I used to ask my mother, what is that place? And she said it's for the mentally ill, the chronically ill, and people who have drug addiction issues. I don't know where those people are today because there's no place for them, because we've torn most of those places down. We're building homes, and we have to take care of the chronically homeless, and we've got to have affordable housing in our city. We don't want to make the mistake that some cities have made where you build housing and people can't come back to those neighborhoods. We've taken, and so what we're doing is creating, for example, looking at just Park Heights, for example, 141 Board of Houses, I think it's 20 acres of land, am I correct? About 20 acres of land that we've cleared, that we're creating incentives to build affordable housing and housing for people who live in and around those neighborhoods.
Now, Mayor, what do you make of the fact that on a weekend when there was a community-driven ceasefire, there were still 2 homicides that weekend? And do you have any reaction to Mr. Pugh's death?
Well, let me just say that I think it was a successful event. We've got to get illegal guns out of the hands of people. That's reality. We've had weekends, believe it or not, and I'm sure, Commissioner, you can attest to that. We've had weekends where there weren't shootings. We've had days where there weren't shootings. I'm more concerned and more grateful that these folks thought it important to be in the action. You know, it might be 2, and maybe next week there's none, and maybe next week there's 0, and maybe 6 days there won't be any, and 7, 8, 9, 10. I think that all of this kind of activity ultimately says we're taking responsibility, we care about this city, and I believe that will help us drive down violence.
And Mr. Tate's death? The 97-year-old veteran who was killed in his home?
Yeah.
Do you have a reaction?
Everybody, anybody who dies, I don't care if they're 0, they're 2 years old to 200 years old, anybody living in the city, any violence committed against anyone is not tolerable in our city. You know, we know the data. 89% of the crimes committed are committed by those who've been involved in the criminal justice system, 9 to 11 times. We have a problem, and we're trying to fix it.
All right, folks.
State Attorney General yesterday, Ryan Frosch, said that your gun bill is a moving target and that he's skeptical about mandatory minimums. He says there's already a 5-year mandatory minimum on handgun crimes. Do you have a reaction to this statement?
Oh, I think he's entitled to his opinion. Absolutely.
Madam Mayor, with the independent monitor, in a couple of weeks, the independent monitor will probably be chosen. And why should the people of Baltimore be confident that the process is going to pick the best monitor, and maybe not the most well-connected monitor to the federal judicial system?
Well, I don't know how you're connected or unconnected or disconnected or reconnected. What I'm concerned about is that we choose the right person. And the other part of this, and I would employ that the community attend those. There'll be 2 community forums where I think 4 or 6 of those monitors will be presented. Do we have the dates for those? We will make sure that you get those dates, because we really need to publicize this, because we need the community to be there, to be present, so that their voices can be heard.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you, everybody.